and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am James Grande, joined by Matt Selz, Colby Conway on another break. What a surprise to everyone that has listened to this podcast for years now. Just kidding. Colby's feeling a little under the weather, so I'm here filling in midweek. Matt, what's going on, brother? Happy Wednesday. How's your week been so far? How your fantasy baseball rosters been so far?
Uh, Going pretty well. I had interesting trade proposals this weekend. Trying to get some more power for my home league, which is basically a draft and hold type situation. There's very little free agent pickups, and so I was trying to get Randy Arozarena and deciding on which pitching option to give up between Pablo Lopez and Chris Bassett, or Vaughn Grissom and Lopez, So I think I'm just gonna hold tight for right now. It's a keeper league, so I've got a few years of stuff to think about at this point. And I did burn Taj Bradley, who lucked out and got a win, even though it was not one of his best starts so far.
Yeah, Taj Bradley looks to be the bee's knees, though. For anyone
Yes.
that has him and anyone in Dynasty or Redraft that has picked him up, I saw he went for a lot of money in my FSGA league this past Sunday, and it wasn't surprising. And that person who claimed him, I forget who it was, but they will be very happy to own him for the rest of
Yeah,
the year.
I think it was a slower burn on Bradley's waiver stuff because people weren't sure about Jeffrey Spring. Like the first
Right.
time he
Well,
came up, they were like,
right.
"Oh, Springs will be up soon," and then you got another week of it where, "Oh, he's out for 2 months, so it's probably Bradley, but we're not going to invest because it's only 2 months." And then the next week it was Tommy John, and everybody's like, "Ooh, Bradley's up the whole year, so let's
Right.
go bonkers for an ace that you're not going to get anybody else
Right.
on the wire."
Well, I remember it was the Springs injury happened when you and I
Yes,
recorded the last podcast, and they claimed it was just the numbness at first.
yeah.
And you know, sometimes that happens and you come back. And then worst case scenario, a week later, back down for Tommy John. So yeah, all those that have Taj Bradley, including yourself, will be happy. And I don't think you're going to be that mad that you have him, you had to burn him this year.
No, it's gonna cost me more in the like 3 years than I wanted
Sure.
to because I was able to hold Walker Bueller down his entire rookie year. I never used him his entire rookie year. Mainly because I didn't think I was gonna win the league, and I don't like
Right.
burning guys if I'm not gonna win. And then turned out I would have had I burned them, but
Well, maybe your luck turns this year with Taj.
hindsight's 2020. So
Maybe the luck turns this year because you're burning Taj Bradley. We will see and check back with you in September. Matt, let's get into some injuries that have taken place this week and some guys that are returning from injury. And I'll just pose some questions to you for fill-ins or guys you could be dropping or adding in their place. Let's start it with the Los Angeles Angels and Logan O'Hoppe, who got off to a really good start. He was a very popular waiver wire or very very popular late round catcher flyer in this year's fantasy drafts. Down for the count, torn labrum, out 4 to 6 months. Not the best injury if you are a baseball player. Not the best injury if you're like a regular human being either. Just like working a 9 to 5. What do you make of O'Hoppe's injury? Probably can't stash him. This is too long of an injury. He might not even be back for the regular season. And any catchers on the Angels that you would potentially pick up in his place?
yeah. So the injury is not great. Baseball players don't have a great history of coming back and being their normal selves after a torn labrum. Now, it's not that common of an injury. I think Fernando Tatis suffered partial torn
Yep.
labrum, and he seems to be okay, but he's also freakish because he also sublexed his shoulder and then came back like 2 weeks later, like, nah, it's fine,
Yeah.
I'm good. Um,
Well, some people would say he had
well,
things
he had
helping
some
him get
help,
back.
right?
He had some
He,
he had
he
some
had
help.
some medicinal,
He used
not
the
over the counter help.
that was what Andy Pettit did. Andy Pettit to come back from an injury, he used
Yes,
some help too. So
yes. Um, So for a catcher, I think it would probably depend on if it's his throwing shoulder or not in terms of, his defensive ability and whatnot. But he is
it is non-throwing shoulder is
that helps a
the
little bit.
yep.
So it's just, I'm assuming left shoulder
Yep,
because there's no
correct.
left-handed
No
catcher.
left, no lefty catchers. No.
It's been like 2 decades since there was a lefty catcher. Um, so if you're in a keeper dynasty league, I'd still hold him. I think he's worth it. I think, I've been on the Ohapi bandwagon since he was a Phillies prospect. I liked him in their farm system. Thought it was a great move to deal him because he was going to be blocked by Real Muto. Um,
Right.
but yeah, for this year, if you're in a redraft, I'd drop him. In terms
Yeah.
of who we're picking up, Chad Wallach's been good,
Yep.
right? Yes, that guy's still playing baseball. He's still hitting them hard. Um, I don't know what to make of Matt Tice. He was a first baseman, and then he couldn't play defensively at first, so they said, "Hey, let's stick him behind the plate because that makes a lot of sense." I guess I don't know, but he's, I guess, their backup catcher, 50-50. I don't know how
Yeah,
they're
it
going
seems
to
like a
take that.
50. It seems like a 50-50 split.
Yeah, so I, I don't know. At this point, you just got to pick up anybody who's breathing and plays catcher.
I laugh, but like
I
you're
mean,
you're not wrong. Here I'll rattle off some names I think that could be viable. Jonah Heim has obviously picked up a ton of
yeah,
steam lately, but he is the highest rostered player over the last week, highest added player on ESPN leagues. He's up to 54% rostered. I think Jonah Heim is a clear cut number one option. I mean, still 46% of leagues on ESPN
yeah,
he's available. That's probably the first place you'd go. Elias Diaz has looked good. Gabriel Moreno has started to really pick it up at the plate. Same
yeah,
with Shane Langoliers. I think some of those
yeah.
guys.
Langoliers almost had a grand slam on Monday
Yep.
until Taylor Ward
Said
stole
no,
it,
no. Said no, no.
as well as an Angels fan trying to hurt his own team, trying to interfere there with Taylor Ward. That
Yeah,
was
yeah. That was
why are you
interesting.
doing it?
But I think those are some interesting names you could pick
Yeah.
up for Ohapi. I obviously like Jonah Heim's not going to be in very active leagues. Jonah Heim is that's
In
just
two catcher leagues, you're not getting him.
yeah. And then the other guys could very well be available if people are sleeping at the wheel. Moreno is like tied for the team league in RBIs or team lead in RBIs. So
Yeah,
I
also the Diamondbacks, for those that don't know, I think are tied for first or are in second place in the NL
yeah, they've been
West.
awesome. Yeah, they've been awesome.
Well, okay, let's temper things because they're like 12 and 12 or 12 and 11, which would be
Listen,
tied with the Red Sox, who are in last place in the AL East,
that's
but
that's
they're tied
awesome.
for first in the NL West. So
Well, you know what? You play who you play, and that's your
you
division.
play
You
in
know,
your division, yes. I'm just saying, like, it's not like they're Tampa,
we're
who's
yeah. Well,
never going to
that's
lose.
yeah. Let's move out of the AL West and head to the NL Central. Garrett Mitchell, unfortunately, likely done for the year. I
Yeah, did
mean,
his wife show up for that one, or did she not show up for that one?
I'm hoping she did. That would be unfortunate if she didn't. Um, there is a second opinion taking place, but it looks like the season's in jeopardy. What do you make of the What do you make of the immediate fill in for Mitchell? They called up
Joey
was
Weimer.
Perkins, the 26. He's a 26-year-old switch
Yeah.
hitter. He's played a couple games now. Um, is there anyone on Milwaukee that we should be more interested in than we were before the Mitchell injury, or is this kind of just a wash?
I think it's kind of a wash. Like, if they're going to call up
Yeah,
Weimer and he gets a lot of playing time, I'd be interested because that guy has some sneaky good speed. He's got
yeah,
decent pop. If they call up Sal Frelick, he's more of a contact guy. Um, he's kind of, when he was drafted, people comped him to like an Andrew Benintendi type. So he's going to make a lot of contact, not strike out all that much. He's got okay speed, plays a pretty decent defensive center field. But I think it's a wash at this point. No, we're not seeing Jackson Chourio come up. He's in Double A. They're not calling him up this year, unfortunately, because that's a 30-30 bat in the minors. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm not excited about basically anybody outside of, like, if Weimer gets the full time starts, then I'd be excited about him.
it looks like he's been playing every day right now, or at least since the Mitchell injury. He's played 4 straight games.
Yeah.
So that looks to be the case. They're giving him a shot. We'll see if that continues. Hits in going into Tuesday, he had hits in 3 of 5. Hits in 3 of 5 games. So we'll see if Weimer continues to play full time. He would probably be the only one I'd have interest in. It's unlucky for Garrett Mitchell, who's looking to be a very good fantasy
Yeah,
asset.
that guy's going to be a stud when he's healthy.
Yeah, he's going to be. Milwaukee has a good player, a good one there. Speaking of someone who has had a long history of success, Justin Verlander is poised to make his return. Matt, what's your thoughts on Verlander coming back early May? Should still, as long as there's no other injuries present, should still see 25 plus starts this year? Like, or so. Where do we kind of slot Verlander and like what tier for a 41-year-old? Where do you like slot Verlander in rest of season?
You have to put him in the top 10 starters, right?
Top 10 starters. Yeah, I mean
I
for
mean,
rest of
look,
season,
he's
sure.
coming off a dominating season last
Yeah,
year.
correct.
He's the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. Yes, now he's playing in the NL. I got it, but he won it for the Astros. Do we expect to see that type of performance again? No, I don't think so. There's going to be regression. Sorry, 41-year-olds don't put up sub 2 ERAs. Going to be a lot of strikeouts. He gets
Yep.
to pitch against a beat up Phillies lineup, a Nats lineup who sure they could put up 10 runs against Pablo Lopez, or they could go 28 innings without scoring a run, right? Miami's terrible. We saw what Spencer Strider just did to them on Monday night. So you kind of got to put him in the top 10. Like, I don't think there's any controversy to that. As long as he stays healthy, he's a top 10 guy. And even in an abbreviated season last year, he was a Cy Young Award winner, right? So,
Yep.
no
I
problem.
agree. It's just 41 years old. It is just worth mentioning. Like there are obviously exceptions to the rules in every sport. LeBron James, Nolan Ryan, Justin Verlander a year ago, like
Rich Hill,
Tom Brady, like there
Jamie
are
Moyer was 48 and still pitching in the
Jamie Moyer. Who was the Braves pinch? Julio Franco was 57 years old, still.
I think he's
Ripping.
still playing in like Japan or a Dominican league or something.
That would that is the least surprising news you're going to hear
He's
all
like
week.
65 and he's still like an everyday player in like the Dominican league.
There are obviously exceptions to the rule. Like there are just people who are freaks of nature, and there's something that's wired differently, that they don't have the same peaks and valleys as every other human being in existence. Good. I'm happy for you guys. Me and Matt are washed, and we're sitting here. We're two washed dads talking about baseball. So, we do not share that same feeling. Someone who also doesn't share that same feeling, Matt, Bryce Harper, guy's just not gonna do any rehab games. He's just gonna take live BP for a couple weeks, and they're gonna say, "Hey, Bryce, welcome back to this lineup that we expected to be really good. Has been, I think, a little underwhelming for the most."
I mean, if you lose Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper, and Derek Hall,
sure. That is, that's a fair point. I'm just talking from the standpoint of like I drafted Trey Turner first everywhere, and I could have drafted Ronald.
Yeah,
Acuna.
That guy needs to. Trey Where's your bat, dude?
Could have drafted Ronald Acuna everywhere. Just saying, Ronald Acuna has 12 stolen bases through 23 games. So just saying, hands up, just saying.
Yeah, I was a little wrong right now on that one too.
But obviously, Bryce Harper return imminent. I mean, what do you make of this? Like, no,
it'd be the fastest return from Tommy John in the history of baseball.
Yeah, like, what do you think? What is your expectation of Bryce Harper? Like, obviously, there's not going to be. So there's the likely scenario is first base and DH, right? Those are like the two scenarios for Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you make of this return from Tommy John, where he's not going to be tasked with? This is the least stressful position on the baseball field from like putting your arm at risk. Like, but he's also going to be swinging a bat
Well, he swung a
five.
bat last year with no UCL, so
Sure. And now it's repaired. Like, what do you make of Bryce Harper's fantasy outlook when upon returning?
I think it's perfectly fine. Like, I trust Kevin Long to figure out hitters. He's a longtime Yankees hitting coach, and then he went to the Nats, and he's the entire reason why Trey Turner signed with the Phillies is because Kevin Long is his dude.
Right.
You know, Kevin Long has been throwing batting practice to Bryce Harper this entire time. He's been the one throwing to him, looking at his swing. He says it's great. There's literally zero difference from his MVP year to now with his swing. Like, he's good to go. I'm fine with that. He's going to be a stud. The dude's going to jack homers. He's still in a park that he's done really, really well at. And by the way, those of you who have him as an outfielder, get ready to have multi-positional Bryce Harper and him be the most valuable first baseman. Well, okay, the top 3 fantasy first baseman, right up there with Freeman
Yep.
and Vlad, and probably better than Olsen. Yeah. Now, I don't know what we're going to expect from him in the running game. I don't know if he's going to be running
Probably not.
because
My
they just
assumption
need
would
his
be no.
bat in the lineup to be healthy to go power that lineup at this point. So I don't have any problems with just him jumping right in. I don't think he needs rehab games, and if it's not working at first base, I could stick him at DH.
And another guy returning. I agree on everything. I'm not overly worried. Could Bryce Harper get off to a slow start, getting back into things? Sure, but it's Bryce Harper at the end
I
of the
mean, the
day.
pitch clock is one that, but he's never been a guy that like dawdles into the batter's box
Right.
and has to regrip and ungrip and regrip and
Right.
like, he doesn't
He'll be
have
fine.
the Nomar
Yeah,
thing going on.
he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Jose Altuve, another star getting close. We actually got word from Fantasy Alarms Jim Bowden on Monday, I believe,
Yeah.
that Altuve is ahead of schedule with his rehab after what was expected to be a 2-month recovery. This would, I mean,
It's basically a month at this point.
yeah, like we're talking about if he's going to return, there is a loose return date of, according to Astros GM Dana Brown, on May 5th. So Cinco de Mayo return for Altuve loosely. That would kind of be insane if we go from 2
That
months
would
to
be
1
insane.
month, and he might be on the same stuff Fernando Tatis was using to recover.
I mean,
I'm just saying. Listen, steroids and PDs are not always used to just get jacked and hit baseballs as far as you can.
yeah,
Like, they're used mostly for recovery. Like, that's.
correct.
I'm not saying Jose Altuve is on steroids. I'm just pointing out that is. I'm just also pointing
You're
out
just like, well, he's on a team that cheated and all this
the
others are like, what?
the recovery process for some of these guys are insane. Like, if I broke my thumb, I'm down in the count for like a year. Like,
Oh, I'm milking that for what it's worth, man.
What do you think? Do you think that could hurt Altuve long term coming back a month ahead of schedule, or what do you think, Matt?
I don't think they're gonna put him full time when he comes back. Like, they have Dubon, who's been doing pretty well. They
Yeah, he's
have
been
Hensley.
awesome. He's been awesome.
They even have David Hensley, who's not really been doing very much because Dubon's been taking it over. But they have basically 3 dudes who could play second base and give Altuve days off. Now, I think he's going to do an abbreviated rehab assignment, given that he missed a good chunk of spring training and get timing down and whatnot. But I think by the end of May, he's their full time. Like, he's not coming out of that lineup, right?
Yep.
I just think they're going to ease him in the first couple of weeks. So if you have him, don't go, oh, he only played 3 games this week. Okay, dude's coming back from a broken thumb. They realize that they're going to be in the playoffs. They're likely to make the ALCS. They need a healthy Jose Altuve as long as they can have him. So costing him some games in May gets them benefit in October. That's what they're going to do.
I'm unsure about that because, like, I can see that scenario playing out, but I can also see if Jose Altuve is deemed healthy enough to return, he just goes back into a full-time role. Like, I could see both scenarios kind of playing out because,
I mean, yeah,
like
I'm just
why
thinking.
why even bring him back at that point? Like, it's different for like a pitcher where like they're returning from an arm injury and they're like, okay, let's not put a full workload on this pitcher right away before he blows his arm out again. Like, this
Well,
is
so it's a broken thumb, right? And it's
right,
one thing to sit here and move it and be okay. And yeah, there's no pain when I do this or whatever.
right,
But
right.
you go and play and grip a wood bat
Sure,
and put it
sure,
in the glove and field it and throw with it and
sure.
whatever for 9 innings at a faster pace than you're used to.
Fair.
Um, and then it could get sore, and then you go, oh well, he's out today because he's got the sore thumb, right?
Right.
Yes, you can be medically cleared to play and be healthy. Doesn't mean that you're 100% ready to go to play.
Fair. Fair, 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 fair. The last injury update we have coming to us is for today, actually. Tony Gonsolin likely to be activated. Um, Pretty good news for the Dodgers, who have not looked as good as I think we thought they were going to.
So I will say I was one of the people that didn't think the Dodgers were going to be that good this year, just because their pitching had so many damn questions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no Walker Bueller's hurts. We don't know how many starts we're gonna get at Clayton Kershaw. Urias was probably the only sure
Yeah.
thing, I
Yep.
would say. Dustin May has been oft injured throughout his early stages of his career. So I
Gonsolin
said,
has got to put together a full season without.
yeah, yeah, he had the last year. He had last year, and that, but it was not even like a full campaign. So like, yeah, I mean, good news for the Dodgers. The return is expected to be 4 innings and then out. My question for you is not so much about like Wednesday's start, about today's start. It's more so long term. Like, can Gonsolin repeat last year's numbers, or was that a flash in a pan?
That's really hard to repeat. I mean,
Yeah, I think
it
so
was
as
like
well.
11-0 at one point, I think,
Yeah,
right?
he had
Like
20 wins. He had 20 wins last year. Like,
he's
it's
not winning 20. I mean, at this point, he's
or
basically
he was so he was
startable.
16-1 last year, Matt. 16-1.
Not
He
happening.
had he had a 2.4, he had a 2.1 ERA, expected xFIP 3.69, so like
That's a pretty decent gap.
pretty good, like still pretty good, but like a sizable gap, right?
Yeah, I think he's. I mean, I think he's going to be a quality starter, right? What does that mean?
Yep,
I think he's going to have a low 3 ERA.
yep,
He's going to get you, I think, double-digit wins would be
yep,
fair, like
yep,
maybe 10, 11 wins.
yep.
Um, Strikeouts will be like he's not a huge
No,
strikeout guy. So they'll be decent. And
less
we're
than a
not.
strikeout per inning. Less than a strikeout per inning last year. 23.9% K rate last year, which is good.
Yeah,
Good,
I
not
think
great.
he's about there. I think he'll get you 10 or 11 wins at best. Uh, Low 3 ERA, solid whip. So like he's not going to kill you in any one particular thing, but he's not a fantasy ace like he was last year.
Yeah, I agree. He has such a good offense that's probably going to score him a lot of runs and win him a lot of games. He's probably gonna not he's not gonna go 16-1, but like 24 starts last year,
About the same this year.
probably project the same for this year, right? It's probably
Yeah.
right around there. I would say double digit wins as well. So yeah,
Eh,
very very viable back end of your fantasy rotation guy.
what are you doing with Carlos Rodon at this point? Given that we heard he played catch. Yay! He's back to little
Uh,
league rehab. He's playing catch.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know because it's like every time he does take a step forward,
It's
then we have another back. We have something new at the back, or
Yep.
there's no structural damage. That's great, but like, how does his back feel? We're just playing catch. So now he has to work back into the bullpen that he was already going to throw. He has to work back into live batters that he was already going to do.
And then he's gonna go do a bunch of rehab starts to go get innings built.
So realistically, what is your time? I mean, this sounds more June than it does May to
I
me.
think it's definitely not May. Because let's just say he needs at least 3 rehab starts, right? At least.
Yep.
Okay, let's say he does 3 innings one time, 4 the next, 5 the next. He's good to go. That's
2
at
weeks. 2
best 2
weeks.
weeks.
Yeah.
That's half of May. That gives him the front half of May to get to the point where
The ramp up
he's
period. Yep.
doing the but I don't know if he has to do the like he's past the flat ground throwing, right? But he's got
Yep.
to go do a bullpen, then wait a couple days, then do another one,
Right. And he has
then
to,
wait a
and we have
couple
to
days.
see if there's and every time he's thrown a bullpen or gone to throw a bullpen,
There's a
he's
reaction.
regressed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we need to get the first bullpen. We need to see 2 days after how he's feeling because
correct.
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's mid-June.
I mean, you're keeping him. You're keeping him because he's a fantasy ace if he's healthy. But it's just like we don't know. We don't know. Like we don't know. Right now, it's just a total unknown. Unfortunately, um, you know. Fortunately for the Yankees, every fifth day, Garrett Cole doesn't give up an earned run, so they have that going for him. um,
Yeah, but it's still Garrett Cole and 17 question marks in that
yes, correct.
in that pitching staff.
Yeah, Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, and then dart throws everywhere else. Matt, we only have a couple minutes
Yeah.
left, so let's head to your prospect corner. Just give us some quick hitters. Give us some guys that we should be looking out for in Dynasty, some guys you should be looking at a redraft. They're going to get called up. Just quick hitters, about a minute. We have like a little less than 2 minutes, so quick hitters on a couple guys that you have interest in for redraft and Dynasty coming
Yeah,
soon.
so Logan T. Allen's coming up for Cleveland. He looked really, really good
Amazing,
in
amazing.
his first start, like 8 strikeouts, looked really, really good. I think he stays in the rotation long term, even when McKenzie comes back. Um, Dre Jameson, interestingly enough, got optioned by the Diamondbacks down to AAA. I think it's Brandon Pfaadt time. That guy looked phenomenal in spring. And then everybody was shocked he didn't make the opening day roster. Well, he's getting back into shape in AAA, so I think he comes up and bolsters them. So if he's available, I would snag him. Andrew Abbott's been a buzzy guy recently. Sure, 64% K rate in AA, a negative 0.26 FIP, which I didn't even think was possible. He's probably not coming until August. I would imagine he just got called up to AAA. And then if you want a couple of bats that are interesting, Cade Marlowe for Seattle could be up this year as a util guy. Their GM loves him. He's like, well, he hits, he runs, he plays defense. Okay, so he's a baseball player. Solid. Awesome. He was also on the taxi squad for the playoffs last year, which is kind of important to know. And Matt Mervis, if you need help at first base, Matt Mervis should be up. He's crushing baseballs at AAA, and the Cubs aren't getting jack squat from their first baseman.
Yeah, brutal. Brutal production from the likes of Eric Hosmer and
And
Trey
Trey
Mancini.
Mancini. And
Um,
whoever else they put there.
and whoever else they put there. Matt, big shout out to you. That'll do it for today's podcast here at Fantasy Alarm on the Better Sports Network. Get all of our fantastic NFL draft coverage coming Thursday and Friday. Round the horn analysts, every analyst you could think of here on the network will be doing some quick hitters, will be doing their draft coverage both Thursday and Friday. But that'll do it for us here on the Fantasy Baseball podcast at Fantasy Alarm at Better Network. Big shouts to you, Matt. Thank you for having me as always. And hopefully Colby will be back. Only one podcast this week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week with the dual pod, but NFL draft is